James Bradberry. Oh boy. Here we go with this topic, everybody. So James Bradberry, a 6'1", 210-pound, 33-plus-inch arm reach, 78.625-inch wingspan. I mean, one of these tall, lanky, rangy, boundary-type corners. For the longest time, you guys heard me state my affinity towards these type of players.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Over the last few draft classes, outside of just, me being a fan of James Bradberry, you guys have heard me talk about guys such as Julius Brents, this past season, this past draft class, TJ Tampa, and then going all the way back a couple of years ago, Martin Emerson, who ended up going with the Cleveland Browns. So, I mean, I've definitely had an affinity towards these type of corners. With that said, it's tough to look at the tape from last season with James Bradberry and walk away from that situation feeling overly confident in terms of his long-term projection on this roster. And that's without the complication and the headache of all the young guys behind them vying for time, vying for playing time, wanting to get on the field. So with that said, I think it's time to take the Band-Aid off, rip this thing off, and just talk about James Bradberry, the Philadelphia Eagles secondary, and kind of like, what do we do here? What do we do here with these unknown circumstances? To begin, I'm not really here to make predictions. Because, if you were to ask me, I'm leaning towards there's just no way James Bradberry will be on this roster come September. But at the same time, he's still here. We're in June. We're now going to mandatory OTAs, mandatory, minicamp. And the guy's still on the roster. So, it has to be factored in to an extent. But with that said, I think the first boundary, the first hurdle I have here about James Bradberry playing in Philadelphia is it's a logjam. If you're going to bring James Bradberry back, you don't make the moves you've made over the last couple of seasons. They spent the 105th overall pick in the 2023 NFL Draft, trading up to get back into the fourth round to do this on Kaylee Ringo. And then this past draft cycle, we spent the 22nd overall pick on Quinyon Mitchell, and then we traded forward with the 40th overall pick, and then we ended up making the selection of Cooper DeJean. So when you add all these things in together, right, those three players, Isaiah Rodgers, getting him back from the NFL, commissioner's exempt list, and kind of the fact that he had a really good, OTA period last week and the week prior, it does feel like, how do you fit James Bradberry on the roster? Like, how do you honestly fit this guy? No matter how you feel about him, and you guys know I was a fan of him, how do you fit this dude? It just doesn't make sense. Like, logically speaking, I don't understand with the numbers crunch we have at this position why we're even messing around with this. Now, I think the obvious answer to that question is that they must be trying to work the phones. They want to get past that June 1st designation, although they could have designated the traded June 1st one at any point in time, to be quite honest. Still, they may have been waiting to get past June 1st and then try to open up the phone lines, try to figure out what's going on. The Eagles might be trying to play that wait-and-see game. We all heard this stuff reported, that they might be working the phones, waiting to see if somebody comes out of OTAs with an unexpected injury. You go into camp to somebody get an unexpected injury. And then you could also make the argument, I guess, that even the Eagles, you don't know what's going to happen in our own OTAs, in our own training camp. So maybe they're just trying to play, do the prudent thing and keep them here until you know exactly how the roster's shaping up. The problem being is there's so many young guys. At some point, it's kind of like, all right, we got a bit of a logjam here. Like, any other guy in here taking reps is taking reps away from another guy who we might have long-term projections on. And I think that's where it gets a little sticky in this situation is that you make the wrong moves and you cut somebody who gets claimed. And I know most of the time we make too much out of this, and it doesn't often happen. I got to tell you, man, if I'm a team and I'm kind of corner needy, and an Eli Ricks comes down, is available for me. If I'm a team and I'm corner needy, and a guy like Tyler Hall, especially at nickel, yeah, I'm probably going to make those claims, right? Josh Jobe. Yeah, Josh Jobe is nothing spectacular, but what he is a very good fifth corner on any football team who can play special teams and has a handful of, a little bit of experience playing in the NFL. That's what I'm trying to get around to. Like, I don't know that these things are as much as layups to make it to the practice squad as people think. Now, obviously, not everybody's going to get claimed. Somebody's going to sneak through, and you'll be able to put that person on your practice squad. And I guess maybe that's what the Eagles are banking on. But it's just a numbers crunch, guys, when you go down it, right? If you keep James Bradberry, you got James Bradberry and Darius Slay. You got probably Avonte Maddox if you're keeping James Bradberry. You're probably going to try to go out there with the most experienced secondary you can put into the system that, guys that have played in similar systems. And then you got your rookies that pretty much round up your roster, right? You got Quinyon Mitchell, you got Cooper DeJean, that's 5 right there. And then you got your 6th guy, which is Kaylee Ringo. Like, if you keep a 7th, which I would probably think whether James Bradberry is on the roster or not because of the talent we have here, there's a high probability of keeping a 7th, but I'd imagine that's Isaiah Rodgers. But you do open your, like, someone's going to get lost. You're going to lose somebody that probably could be part of the long-term projection at the corner position. Now, when I say that, I mean, I'm probably talking more so about your top backup on the outside, a guy that you could kind of play behind maybe inside the nickel and be kind of a backup. I mean, I get it. But at the same time, like somebody who probably could have had a role in this team in the following year or two, they're gone. They're likely gone if you make this move, if things kind of continue forward as they are. And that's kind of tough because, like, as much as I really do like James Bradberry as an individual, as a person, I think he's a really professional guy. I think he's a great guy to have in your locker room. And I do think there was a time where he was a really good player. Like, he used to be a really good mod, man on deep, and Meg, man everywhere he goes, kind of quarter zone match type player, right? He was really, really good at working off of stack sets and those free releases and those trips, those things where you're trying to create for your offense. I thought that James Bradberry on the outside was really good at working through the junk and getting to his guy. I think he's always possessed that ability. But I can't hide from what my eyes showed me last season with this guy. And to be truth be told, it wasn't just a Tyreek Hill touchdown in the Miami game. Even when I was watching film and I went back and I took a look at what happened on the road at Seattle, a place that I knew we hadn't won since the mid-2000s, I knew it was going to be a tough game for us despite what everyone said. You could see that, like, it just wasn't right. Like, James Bradberry's never been the greatest in terms of run defense. It's never really been his calling card. As big as he is, 6'1", 210, it's never really been his calling card. Gives you effort here and there, but he's not like a physical set-the-edge type player from the secondary. That's not what he is, right? He's never been the greatest in what we call the shallow zone. The area under 7 yards, guys. Sometimes I'll say under 10, but really you're under 7 is normally when you're talking about your shallow zone, right? When they're running tunnel screens and bubble screens and, quick outs, things like that where you got to come up and you got to tackle, right? You want to try to beat, number one, you want to try to beat offensive linemen climbing to the second level or like wing backs or tight ends climbing to the second level. But number two, you got to get up there and make a short-handed tackle. That's never really been James Bradberry's strength despite the size. Then I add in what I saw there, which is, man, he had a couple plays to where he had inside leverage. So, he's trying to keep everything outside of him. And when he had to turn and flip his hips and run, James Bradberry's never been a speed demon per se, but he's always, been more athletic than people suspect, right? He's a 4.5 40 guy, which isn't lighting anything up, but that 1.53-10 split tells you he's a little twitchy, right? That 36-inch vertical mixed in with the 124-inch broad jump with that 1.53-10 split tells you there's some explosion to his play when he was younger. Keyword younger. I'm looking at this and I'm watching what I saw on tape, and I can't help but have mixed feelings here to say, like, I don't know. I don't know if there was an injury that wasn't disclosed to us. Keep in mind, guys, if it does not hold you out of practice, it does not need to be disclosed. That's the way it works even in season, guys. If it's not holding you out of practice, you don't have to disclose it. If it's not limiting what you can do in practice, you do not have to disclose it. So if you're still able to fully participate, you don't have to disclose it as an organization. So I don't know. I don't know if something like that was going on behind the scenes that we're just not privy to. It's possible, guys. With that said, it's also possible that he's 30-some years old now. And, you're playing in a league to where every year these receivers get bigger and faster. Every year there's a new 4.3 guy coming in here who's like over 6 foot tall, right? There's always these Mike Evans and these DK Metcalfs out there. There's just crazy big dudes that normally you would think would play on the boundary side. You would think you get you a boundary side corner you can match up. Well, now you're starting to see these dudes are not only big, but they're really fast. And it's really hard to match athlete for athlete with these guys, right? You normally have to do this conceptually through the scheme, if you will. What I saw was a guy that really, really did not look like he had oily hips. It looked like the Tin Man to me out there, guys, flipping those hips and trying to run. Like I said, could something be underneath the surface we don't know about? Sure. But I'm not privy to that information. I can only judge what I do, what I am made aware of, and what the tape shows me. What the tape shows me is this young man had a hard time on man on deep and man everywhere he goes with turning those hips and running last season. He got beat and he got beat off the ball fast. So I don't know, guys. Only thing I can say is age tends to be undefeated. Let me know your thoughts. What do you guys think about James Bradberry? For me, it's a sad moment, man. I'm a bit of a James Bradberry fan. I think he goes about his business in the right way, the way you want any professional in any locker room to go about their business. But in the same time, like, I have to admit, age is undefeated, and you can't think that every single player out there is going to be a Darius Slay getting closer to their mid-30s and still running the way he runs, right? Champ Bailey played well into his mid-30s and could still run. Not every guy can do that. Like, there are athletic, profiles here. And I think the bigger and stronger you are and the more, kind of an anomaly you are in that regards, I think when it kind of goes really fast for you. I think that's why we see a lot of these aging corners will sometimes be converted out to a safety. Now, I don't know if the Eagles have plans to do that with James Bradberry. Hey, guys, at the time that I recorded this, I honestly had no idea that they were going to move James Bradberry to safety. The comments I made were just kind of offhand in terms of the way that sometimes aging corners are dealt with that are really good zone corners, right? Guys who can really read route progressions, who can really understand the progression of the quarterback. If they have good eyes, sometimes when they lose that step, they move them to safety. But to be honest, I had no prior knowledge of this, guys. I mean, this caught me off guard as much as it probably caught you off guard. And it's an interesting way of trying to work around the problem here. I don't know how it's going to work out ultimately, guys, but they're definitely trying to get creative with solving this. However, it's not too hard to see why you might look at him that way and say he could match up on some tight ends. He could match up on some of the taller slot receivers of the league. Like, he does have a little bit of ability. He does have some size to him. This is a guy who can still be disruptive, and he can still use his eyes and things like that to, be a really, really effective ball player out there. With that said, I still have to lead into myself like, well, he's still going to be coming from depth to play the run at times. I don't know if that's the greatest fit for him, but nonetheless, it'll be interesting to see how the Eagles view him and if they would actually do something like that with James Bradberry. It's tough, guys. I don't know what to make of it, but let me know your thoughts down below. And if you're new to the channel and you enjoy this type of content, guys, I would love to add you to the Cerebral Football community. Just need you to click there to subscribe. If you want to see a video that YouTube thinks that you would enjoy of mine, look over here. Boom, you'll find that video, guys. All right, y'all. Peace. I'm out of here.